Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nobody, and I know nothing. Today we are going to be discussing thinking, ethics, and morality, and how you can tie those three things together. Later on, I will define ethic and moral before we jump into that. But I'll start with the concept or principle of thinking and why it feels like a lot of people don't or they actively choose not to. And it doesn't take very long to come to an idea that you can understand of why a person would choose to not think or would actively choose to not think about a question presented to them. And it's pretty easy if you've chosen to spend any amount of time properly thinking over an idea or a significant choice you'll have to make. Because if you have to think for an idea for, like, say, 2 hours, like really deep in thought, I need to think of all the ways that my decision could be wrong, why I think it's right, obstacles that will be in your way potentially. Thinking of all these random different things for this very important issue to you. And you find that after like 2 hours of dedicated deep thought, you need a nap. Like, really need a nap. Why is it the harder and longer that you think, the more of a physical toll it takes? Why is it when I think for so long and so hard, I am physically exhausted and I could be sitting in a recliner or in like a lawn chair outside, smoking a stogie, enjoying myself. I got a nice glass of whiskey or maybe a beer. I've got some water. I'm smoking a cigar. I'm having a grand old time of doing nothing but thinking. I'm not moving. I'm just sitting, enjoying a cigar, some liquor, and thinking. And then after like 2 hours of doing that, I need rest. And I don't really get that. I don't understand why I am physically tired from a mental activity. It doesn't make much sense. But because I understand that, I understand why people would choose not to think. It's not an excuse to not think. I'm just pointing out, or I need to make the point that it's understandable. You may find it inappropriate, but that may vary depending on circumstances. Like, how necessary is the thinking? How necessary is it to think? That depends on the question being asked. Because invariably, you run into a problem. You run into the problem where someone asks you something, and it's a yes or no question. Not too difficult of a question. It's no real gray area. It's actually a pretty black or white situation, and it's either yes, you agree, or no, you don't agree. And if you choose not to think, they ask you the question, and you say yes. And that's what they wanted to hear, so everything is fine and dandy. And life goes on its way. You've agreed to the thing. They think you should agree to the thing. Everyone's happy. Now, take the same situation. Let's say it's the same question, whatever that question is, still yes or no. And you think about it for like 2 or 3 seconds. And in those 2 or 3 seconds, your subconscious or your gut or whatever informs your decisions says no. So you tell them no. Well, that's a problem because they asked you something that they expected you to say yes to. Probably because they spent time thinking about whatever they chose, about whatever question was asked. They thought about it and they thought the answer to the question is yes. And they have reasons why it should be yes, but they don't have reasons why it should be no. Because to the person asking, it's very obvious that the answer is yes. So your gut tells you no. So that's what you respond with. And now they're upset with you because that's not what you're supposed to say. So the inevitable question is following that is why? Why? I'm right. Why are you disagreeing with me? This is stupid. Have you thought about this? That's the problem. They haven't. Especially if it's a question they haven't thought about or been asked before. You merely have a gut reaction. So you say, no. Well, why? I don't know. I have to think about it. And if the person's understanding, they say, okay, think about it and get back to me. But most people aren't patient enough for that. They say, no, you said no when the answer is obviously yes. Why did you just tell me no? But they're not going to give you time to think. So you have to put your brain in overdrive and you have to think, why did I say no? Is there a reason? Have I been through something similar? Have I seen something similar? Was I taught certain things that told me this is actually a bad thing? So I'm going to say no. And do you have the capacity to even put forward all of those thoughts and ideas in a coherent way that the other person would understand? Maybe not accept, but at least understand. And the answer is most likely no, because you haven't had time to think about it. And why haven't you had time to think about it? Well, if you have been asked the question, maybe you were tired when it was asked. And if you're already tired, why would you choose to be more tired by spending a lot of time thinking about it? That honestly would make no sense. It's like, I'm already tired. Why would I want to be more tired? And if you're not tired, maybe you're busy, already thinking of other things. So you simply said, I'll think of that later. And then you didn't. Or maybe you were subconsciously, which is why you said no. But you don't know that. You weren't consciously thinking about it. So now we have a problem. You need to think about things you've been asked, even if you don't remember them. Or you have to go out of your way to think of things that may be asked of you. So now you have to decide on your own. Myself, I so choose to take time, however much time, whatever time I put forward. I'm going to take this time, I'm going to sit, I'm going to think. And I'm going to think about things. And I'm going to think about why I think certain things about these things. The thought that you thought wasn't the thought you thought because the thinking thought wasn't the thought you thought thinking thought was. I'm fairly certain that was correct. Anyways, so person is now mad at you and wants an answer. So you give an answer. Well, they don't accept your answer because now they have to think too. And that sucks. And were either of you prepared to put forward the time? Do you have the time set aside right now in this moment to actually properly go through whatever the question was and why you disagree? Or are you just going to have to both abandon it and say, we agree to disagree? Because that's all that phrase is. We agree to disagree is the phrase used when both parties decide, I don't have time to think about this, or I don't have time to have the nice, proper, long discussion where I throw ideas against you, you throw ideas against me, and we come to a conclusion that's either in favor of one or the other or somewhere in between. It doesn't matter. It's the whole spectrum of 1 to 100, where it could be 51-49, pure 50-50, 99-1. It doesn't matter. Either way, there's somewhere between the two of you where the answer is found. And it could be 100-0. One could truly be right. But you won't know unless you have the time to think and discuss and bounce ideas off of each other and find the proper solution. And most people don't have time for that, and they don't have the energy for that, or they just don't know how. And so you come up with a problem where someone will just go, sure, I don't care, do whatever. Well, that's cool until it comes back to bite you because you chose not to think, and now you're in a situation where you are required to put forward a clear, concise explanation of why you think certain things, but you didn't take the time to think about it. You haven't spent the proper amount of time to really delve into your morals and your ethics or your thoughts on whatever topic of your choosing. And you haven't properly thought through why you think the way you think. Because it's hard and it's tiring and it's time consuming. And maybe it's just easier to not. Because it is easier to just not think. If you don't think, you can just have your ideas. Why you have them is immaterial. It doesn't matter. Because you have them. And if you have them, you have a reason for them. Does the reason matter? No, because other people don't want to think. They're not going to ask you why. Because they also don't want to be asked why. Thinking drops when conversation dies. People no longer talk to each other. They talk at or past each other. And that's not good. You need to take time to think on why you have certain morals, ethics, ideas, perspectives. You need to be able to tell someone why you think something is good, why you think something is bad, why you say yes, why you say no, so many things. But you don't put forward the time because you know it may be time wasted. Can you think of why you have certain thoughts or ideas or perspectives? Do you know how to properly go through and figure out the root of your answer? Your answer is no. Have you asked yourself why? You think X is good and Y is bad. Do you have a grounding? Do you say it's because of Z that I think X is good and Y is bad, and V is an outlier? See, now we're getting into problems. Now there's a gray area. And that is why thinking is important. Thinking allows you to work around your morals, your ethics, and the gray. Because your ethics are your core beliefs and your moral is how you traverse the gray areas. So here's the definition of ethic. Ethic is a noun, as described. A set of moral principles, especially ones relating to or affirming a specified group, field, or form of conduct. An example of it is the Puritan ethic was being replaced by the hedonist ethic. And then moral is an adjective and is defined as concerned with principles of right and wrong behavior and the goodness or badness of human character. Sentence example is the moral dimensions of medical intervention. Now, the reason why I say ethic and moral, ethic is your base and moral is how you ground, I guess, how you maneuver through the gray area of your ethic. So, for example, let's put forward an ethical question. Yes? Killing a person. Ethically, can you kill a person? Yes or no? Ethics are always yes or no. They're your starting point. Moral or morality is where you define the but or the except if. Because you've already chosen that X thing is a yes or no. But there may be times where it's not. So you choose your ethic and you use your morals to better define the ethic and when the ethic is correct and when the ethic is wrong. So, ethic. Killing a person. Can you do it? Yes or no? Yes. If the answer is yes, odds are you, for example, think the death penalty is fine. if your ethic of can you kill a person? If your ethic says no, you're probably a pacifist. Now, the extreme version of these two ethics, the ethic of can you kill a person, the answer being yes, is genocide. The extreme of the answer no is being genocided. So pick your ethic. Do you want to commit genocide or do you want to be genocided? Odds are you don't want to be killed or you don't want to die. So your base starting is actually closer to yes than no. However, like I said, ethics are black and white. Ethics are yes or no. And here's why. Someone says to the ethic, killing someone. Yes. Morality says, but not murder. Now, you look at the ethic that says no. No killing people. But their morality says you can defend yourself. There's a really big overlap in those two. So it's important to note that if you were to look at this like a coin, ethics are the faces. Yes, no. There is no wrong ethic. There can be wrong application of an ethic, but there's not a wrong ethic because an ethic is the balancing system. It's how you find proper solutions. You need people to be on both sides of an ethic. Where you find your middle ground is the morality, where you define the right and wrong within the ethic. So the morality is the edge of the coin. It's what connects the two together. It's what defines the coin. So now we've jumped into the morality and ethics of things. And this is where thinking is important. Because when you have a thought on, say, is killing an animal bad? And your answer is yes. Have you taken the time to think to yourself, why is my answer yes to it is bad to kill animals? Well, typically you can run your morality back of killing animals bad to the ethic of killing is bad. So the ethical question would be, is killing okay? And like I said, ethic has no morality. Ethic merely is yes or no, and your morality defines good and bad. So ethics says killing is bad, pure and simple, black and white. So have you taken the time to think that you saying killing animals is bad is a moral position on the ethic of killing is bad? But do you have an exception for that? Is it okay to kill an animal if the animal is trying to kill you? Because you're applying ethics and morality to something that does not hold the capacity to think about that. Most animals, not all animals, some are intelligent enough to know of something that might be called ethics, and they do not have the morality to properly go through with that, i.e. dolphins. Dolphins are hyper intelligent. They also have one of the highest rape rates of any mammal. That's a little messed up. That means they know what evil is and choose to partake in it. So they have an ethic and they have terrible morals. So do with that what you will. But let's take a far more simple animal. Say a tiger. When a tiger kills a person, do you take the time to think, well, did the tiger murder the person? And the answer is usually most people come to the quick conclusion of no, because tigers don't have morality. They merely have survive. That's basically it. They basically have a survival instinct. It's pure and simple. There's not really gray area. It's merely, am I hungry? Yes, something needs to die. Am I hungry? No. I'll leave the thing alone. So, we've gotten to the ethic now, and we've decided that ethics and morality can only apply to humans mostly. And maybe you can sort of tease out, say, orcas or dolphins or elephants. I almost said mammoths, but those are extinct for now. Sorry. So we are stuck with ethics and morals, and it feels like people have forgotten morality. Not in the literal sense, but more in the sense of they've abandoned morality for pure ethics. So people have decided that it does not go beyond two-dimensional. It exists on the face of yes, or it exists on the face of no. And if it exists on the face of no, yes does not exist. If it exists on yes, no does not exist. And that's problematic because you need depth. Because, like I said, ethics have no morality. They're merely yes or no. Neither is wrong. You argue what's wrong and what's right with morality. That's what gives it depth. That's the edge of the coin. That's your gray area. And it is, in my opinion, I think that it is possible for people or humanity to come to the ethic is not necessarily important, but a pure or correct morality for all ethics. The problem is the moment we do that, it doesn't matter. Sure, you can convince someone through sound, reasonable argument and discussion that the proper moral way of, how to say this, the proper moral act of an ethic is 100% correct and is correct in all scenarios because all scenarios have been accounted for. I think that will eventually be something that is attainable. But when we attain it, the moment you force someone under your morality, even though it is 100% correct, you are now wrong. Because forced compliance is always wrong, even if what you're forcing, the compliance you're forcing, is morally and objectively both right and good. The moment compliance is forced is the moment your morality is wrong, and you need to rethink the morality that surrounds your ethic. So that's why most people tend not to think, because it takes a long time to think through the long list of ethics. And then once you find your ethic, yes or no, it takes even longer, 3, 4, 5 times as long to think through the morality of every possible aspect of the ethic you've chosen yes or no to. Because the thing is, as you dive into the morality of an ethic, you may find that you're not actually yes, you're actually no. But the moment you do that, you got to think, how does that change the morality? And it's just a spiraling loop, or at least it can be. And that's why it's avoided. That's why it's just so much easier to not think about it. But my problem with not thinking about it is when you choose to not think about it, you choose to not be a person. Because what makes you an individual is how you perceive the world. Your set of ethics and the morality that dictates how those ethics are applied. If you don't take the time to think about it, or you don't have the practice in thinking about it, and you don't have decent conversations with people where it's not, you can argue with someone, but it's got to be a good argument, not a shouting match of we're not talking to each other, we're talking at each other, or we're talking past each other. It needs to be a legitimate conversation where the goal of the conversation is to figure out how thick is this coin? We have different ethics, but where does the morality overlap? Which side of the ethic should morality fall on? Which side of this coin needs to be heavier than the other? You don't get rid of one. You need to figure out which aspect of both ethics is good and which aspect of both ethics is bad. You need to define your gray area. You need to take the time to think through. So when strange and abnormal, or what might be considered impossible situations, you need to be able to answer those because you've taken the time to think through the morality of the ethic you hold. Because that defines you as a person. It defines you to other people, against other people. It's what separates you from other people. Agreed upon morality is what holds a group together. It's how you can be a part of a group. Your ethics don't necessarily matter because the morality applied to the ethic is what matters. That's how a group of individuals work together. Ethically, I say yes. Well, ethically, I say no. Well, cool. But we agree that the morality of this ethic says this is good and this is bad. And despite the fact that ethically we're on opposite sides of the coin of this ethic, we both agree on the moral of it. And that's how you get a group of individuals, and how you get a community or a group of people that are incapable of being an individual are the people that just choose to not think. You tell them this is what they should think, and they think, I don't want to think, so I will take what's being told to me, I will presume it to be good, and I will hold it to be true. Because anything you proclaim to be good is something you believe to be true. It's very rare, it's very scientific, I guess you could say, for a person to say that what I'm saying is correct. I may be a little wrong, but I'm aimed in the right direction and I've made steps in the right direction. That doesn't mean I don't need to make adjustments. But most people do not exclaim what they believe to be true while unconsciously or consciously thinking it's actually wrong. Sociopaths do that. Not psychopaths. They're different. Look it up. Scientists say, here's what I've observed, here's what I've determined, here's what I've worked out. This is the truth as of now. Because the truth may change because of the scientific method of constantly reworking something may pull up, as science tends to, it pulls up more questions than answers. So you find an answer that works for the majority of the questions. That's cool. But it may change. So you're confident in the answer you have currently, but you need to be capable of saying, but I may be wrong. And you can't say that if you don't think about what you believe to be correct or good. The moment you choose to not do that, the moment you choose to stop thinking, is the moment you have neither ethics nor morals. Well, this one's been a lot of fun, friends. Until next time, have fun, stay safe, and don't talk to bears.